Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. I'm doing this video. It was totally random. I was kind of just sitting here thinking, like, I got some extra time. Technically, I'm on the clock at work, and I'm like, I got some time before, my time's up, and I was thinking, like, what could I do just as a random video, and it kind of came to me, because of my favorite franchise. Do people still keep, if a game is your favorite, you have a favorite franchise, does it stay your favorite even after it gets a bunch of crappy sequels? Because for me, my favorite franchise is Resident Evil. And it still is, it always has been, and I assume it always will be. But the reason I wanted to do this video is because I don't ignore the fact that some of the sequels aren't that great. Like Resident Evil 5 is one of my least favorite Resident Evil games that I have played, and I think it is my least favorite that I actually own. I've played Survivor, which, yeah, at the time, like kind of like everybody, I really hated it because it was so different than it did the first person thing, and they're kind of going back to that. But I played the demo for 6, and I'm actually really excited for that. It looks good, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with that. But I really want to do this, and this will probably be a really short one because it's kind of just the question of, you know, have you ever kind of let go of a franchise as your favorite because the sequels just got so bad to you? You were like, I can't call it my favorite. I just like those, maybe like the first 2 or 3 games, but it's got like 8 games. Well, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, that's something I think is very relevant because all the games, it's different characters and stuff like that, and it really could change a lot for you, especially in more recent iterations. They've done a lot of changes back and forth with new combat mechanics and things like that. And some people, of course, 13 I think is a huge example. People really didn't appreciate the story for that, and it just wasn't entertaining to people until like 40 hours in, and then it's like this is really good now. But that really turned a lot of people off, and of course we have the new one coming out, and some people don't like the fighting in that one because it's sort of real time. It's not exactly turn based like it once was. So for some people that turns them off. For me, that actually made me more interested. That's really the only reason I want to get it, is because it does seem like a good game, but I've never really been into turn-based combat. Not really. So it having real-time combat is a part of the reason I really want to get it. And it also just looks good, but the combat just looks more fluid to me, and I personally like that. It's not exactly hack and slash, but it is real-time, and I prefer that, so I'm more excited for it. But one of my friends said he thought it looked really crappy, and he hated, the new combat mechanic that they are using for it. So, of course, it varies. It's all opinion based, but I really wanted to put that out there to really ask you guys, because there are a lot of franchises that have really great games, and then as they continue on, people like them less and less, especially when games get to the point of like Resident Evil, where you have, you know, Resident Evil 0 to 6, and then we have technically 7 coming out. So we're gonna have officially 8 main title games, and then we have 2 Revelations games. We have the 2 Chronicles games. We have 2 the Files games, or Outbreak, the Outbreak games. The second one's called File 2, and just I don't know, I call them Files games. But we have the Outbreak games, and then Survivor and Dead Aim, and then Survivor 2, which I don't think came out in America outside of arcades or something like that. It was weird, but I actually liked Survivor 2 because it was just Code Veronica in first person, and it was actually 2 players, and that was actually really cool. But there are just a lot of franchises like that where they get, even from game 1 to game 2, just like a movie, people can love a movie, and then it's just like, I hated that sequel, which I think for a lot of people, I always have an example for it, but for The Matrix, I think is a huge example for that. For me personally, the second one's my favorite because I never saw the first one as like this crazy great film. I was like, oh, that's a good action movie, but maybe it's because I was younger when I saw it, so I only saw it as like, it's a cool action movie that has an interesting premise. But even when I was younger, I was like, well, I've seen Terminator. Everybody's dead. It didn't seem like mind blowing to me. It was like the computer aspect was different, but I'm like, I've seen post-apocalyptic movies, or movies that have that idea where that is the future. So for me, it never seemed like that big of a deal story-wise. But then for other people, it kind of just, it was like a huge thing, and then it just fell apart in the sequel. But I like the sequel because I thought it had the best action. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and ask you guys: has there ever been a video game franchise where it's like that's my favorite franchise, and then it just fell off for you, and you were like, I can't call it my favorite franchise, but I just plucked those first two games out, or maybe like the first one and the third one, which instantly took me to Devil May Cry when I said that, because a lot of people hate the second one. Um, and you know, I think people are kind of okay with 4, but there are just a lot of video games that have a lot of different iterations, and even even counting spin-off, not like direct sequels and stuff. It could be prequels or spin-off stuff. Like Resident Evil has a million, like I said, different spin-off games, and you can count that. It is a part of the franchise. So I would love to know if there's a gaming franchise out there for you guys where it's like it started off and you were just in love with it, like this is like the best thing ever, and then you loved the second one too, and then maybe the third one you hated, or maybe you hated the second and third and fourth one, but the fifth one kind of got you back because they just did it right after a long time or something. I don't know, but I would love to know if there are any games where you used to call it your favorite, but now you've kind of discarded it, or you lost it and then it kind of came back to you. Like anything like that, I would love to know. For me, I don't really have one personally, but I did think about this, like I said, because of Resident Evil, where it certainly had its missteps. I mean, I think that was before even Resident Evil 3 came out. They did Survivor, which I hated when I played it, and that was like the one game, because when it came out, my cousin actually had it, and I, because I loved, even when I was really young and I probably shouldn't have been playing Resident Evil, I loved Resident Evil, so I loved the first 2 games, and I was like, holy crap, this is my older cousin, I think he was in like his 20s at that time, and I'm like, oh, he has, the new Resident Evil, and I was like, I have to play this right now, and I played, I'm like, this is like first person, this sucks, and I was mad, I was like, I don't like this at all, and so it was just one of those things, but after that, I think it picked up, and I love 3, I love Code Veronica. 4, of course, is really fun. 5 is really my least favorite. I'd have to go back and play Survivor. I can't say like that's my least favorite because I was really young and I didn't even give it a chance. That was when I would skip cutscenes, so that should probably tell you everything you need to know. I used to still skip cutscenes back then, but like for me, 5 was my least favorite because it wasn't scary at all, and that's why I hated that one. It's like it's just an action game, which is not what Resident Evil is, and because 6 is the most recent, everyone kind of hates 6. Like, oh, 6 is like the worst thing. I always thought 5 was worse because at least 6 had something to it with like the Leon campaign. It was like somewhat creepy and stuff because they did the real zombie thing, and they at least made it kind of it's not really scary, but I was like at least it's kind of creepy. And 5 was just like there is nothing to this. The first trailer to 5 is 100% creepier than that entire game if you really play it. Like if you think about it, maybe fighting Wesker is creepy because he's got the super speed and it might freak you out. I don't know. But for me, I was like, as much as people hate 6, I'm like, I don't think it was that bad compared to 5. But I guess that's in the mentality of survival horror and not like the game as a whole. Which I still like 6 more than I like 5 because I was like, well, 5 is just the Chris campaign because that's what 5 was, and that's the only reason we have it in 6 because like, oh well, let's cater to everyone instead of just getting rid of all of that and just doing 6 and making it super creepy. Like the creepiest moment was probably, at least for me in 6, that I really think of that actually was like creepy, was like in this part in Jake and Sherry's campaign. You go into like this random thing and you see like I think it was like mannequins or it was like painted heads on the wall that you look at, and it's like a pitch black room, and it was super creepy. I was like, oh, this is really creepy. And then you go down the ladder and you walk out and you're bright again. I'm like, what? That I was super excited. I was like, oh, this isn't scary, because that was my first campaign too. I did their campaign first, and so this is like the beginning of the game. I was like, oh, it's actiony and this, and then it got like super creepy for like a split second because it's like these faces up painted on the wall and it's a pitch black room. I was like, oh, cool, it's actually creepy, and it's Resident Evil. And then it was like go down the ladder and walk outside and it's super bright and it's a war again. I was like, that was a huge tease. So I was mad about that. But that was like the creepiest thing to me. Like the Leon campaign definitely had some creepy moments, and it was stuff that I think was better, overall at least playing it. It was better because it raised your tension up, because it would be like fast enemies or a bunch of enemies, or if they weren't fast, they were just really tough enemies. So it definitely had some creepy stuff to it, but everyone, of course, hated it. The QTE things were really stupid. Of course, that's it's hard to do QTEs, and they're actually okay to do in general. But that was like my big thing for it. But I want to ramble on about my franchise and what I didn't like and this and that. I just want to put the question out there to you guys. So I would love to know in the comment section what you guys think. If there are franchises that you really loved, but then it's like after a while you just hate. You hate maybe 3 out of the 5 games. So it's like I just like those 2, or you just like one of them or something like that. I would love to know, so please comment below. Let me know, what games really got you guys in the beginning and then just lost you down the road. Or if something, like I said, if there was something that had you in the beginning and then it lost you, but then it got you back later on. Maybe you bought a game, you bought all the games together and you're like, not that bad or something like that. I'd like to know that too. So please comment below, let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.